Texas Roadhouse has a place in the hearts of so many American diners. Want to know their secrets? We found out what makes the food in this unique chain so special.
A meal at Texas Roadhouse starts with quality beef. While you can mask an average or low-quality cut of meat with heavy seasoning, you can't mimic the juiciness and flavor of a genuine high-grade beef. Texas Roadhouse selects USDA-certified beef that has been grain-finished for 120 days. While that may sound like a lot of marketing jargon, the truth is that these terms indicate enhanced flavor and texture in the chain steaks. Grain-finished means the cattle freely roamed pastures for most of their lives and were fattened up with hay, grains, and corn just before slaughter. This results in meat that is buttery, flavorful, and sweet, allowing it to become fork tender when cooked. The term USDA certified is given to steaks that adhere to a strict grading system that determines the meat's quality. The scale starts with prime, followed by choice and select. The rankings reflect the amount of marbling in the cut, an indispensable factor in keeping the meat moist as it cooks. USDA prime beef boasts the highest amount of marbling for the juiciest final product, while choice has slightly fewer streaks of fat and select is the leanest, lacking the same rich flavors and marbling as the other grades. Texas Roadhouse typically serves choice cuts, ensuring a good balance of fine meat and fatty tenderness.
If it doesn't say Texas, it's not Texas Roadhouse.
Despite that famous slogan, Texas Roadhouse actually sources its beef from various locations around the world, including Australia, Canada, and the U.S. Midwest. Meanwhile, the steakhouse chain promises to always use fresh, never frozen meat. The words fresh and never frozen paint a homey, farm-to-table feel, but they also suggest that you'll receive a more tender and tastier steak on your plate. That's because fresh meat boasts a higher nutrient count and contains a stronger flavor. While freezing beef can be a convenient way to extend its expiration date, it does risk losing that flavor if done improperly. This is because moisture within the muscle crystallizes when frozen, potentially damaging the cut's inherent qualities. By cooking fresh, Texas Roadhouse ensures a juicier cut, brimming with its natural nutrients, eliminating any risk of flavor loss in the freezing or thawing process. Let's face it, cooking the perfect steak at home can be a little daunting. Most meat eaters prefer beef that is charred on the outside and juicy within, but several factors influence the final product. From marbling, muscle fibers, and quality to the proper cooking techniques and tools, steak is one of those dishes many of us prefer to leave to the professionals, and this goes for cutting the beef too. Before landing on your plate, every steak at Texas Roadhouse meets the skilled hands of a meat cutter. These professionals are trained to hand-cut the perfect slab of meat, leaving only the best bits for the customer. Hand-cutting steaks allows the meat to be left whole upon delivery, retaining all its moisture and guaranteeing greater consistency and even cooking in every cut. As one Texas Roadhouse meat cutter explained to Market Screener, "We have a cut across the grain technique to maintain just the right marbling so the restaurant can serve the tastiest, most succulent steaks." Once the beef arrives at Texas Roadhouse, meat cutters guide it through an in-house aging process. Aging the cuts in a controlled and salty environment helps break down tough muscle fibers, resulting in a richer, more succulent final product. When it comes to beef, the aging process can be wet or dry. Dry aging means leaving the steak in an open-air space free of contaminants, while wet aging means leaving the cut in a vacuum-sealed package with its natural juices. Now, Texas Roadhouse hasn't actually confirmed whether it employs wet or dry aging, but their steaks' melt-in-your-mouth buttery nature suggests that wet aging might be at play here. Because wet-aged steaks retain practically all of their natural moisture, fans of the method swear the meat is juicier and sweeter with a more nuanced, meaty flavor. On the other hand, dry-aged steaks are like a punch of umami to the face and only require a little salt and pepper. Still, wet-aged steaks are said to pair better with seasonings and sauces. In any case, two Texas Roadhouse employees shared in a cooking segment on WBRC that the restaurant's steaks are aged for ample time.
They spend days and days in a 34-degree below cooler.
This can be anywhere from 2 weeks for tenderloins up to 25 days for all other cuts, allowing the meat plenty of time to reach its peak tenderness and flavor profile. Seasoning is another key component to Texas Roadhouse's steaks. The restaurant's blend of spices, herbs, and salt doesn't drown the meat's natural goodness, but highlights and complements its robust flavors. A former employee revealed on Reddit that Texas Roadhouse cooks slather both sides of each steak in a healthy dose of the proprietary seasoning before searing them and cementing the flavors. While this seasoning might be the key to the flavor of Texas Roadhouse's steaks, however, you won't be taking any home anytime soon. The company briefly put its sirloin seasoning up for sale in 2015, but that webpage has since been taken down, and nothing appears to have taken its place. Luckily, a few online listings have given internet sleuths a taste of what that seasoning might include. Although unavailable to buy, the Texas Roadhouse sirloin seasoning on Amazon features ingredients such as sugar, garlic, and onion, paprika, turmeric, and a rather confusing umbrella term of spices. Commenters on another Reddit thread guessed that one of these mysterious spices could be chili powder. Sadly, though, we can't know for sure. When you order a steak at Texas Roadhouse, the meat is always cooked fresh to order. According to a purported former Texas Roadhouse cook writing on Quora, the chain's method for cooking steaks involves a flat-top grill surrounded by 2 gas grills. The flat tops are cranked up to a sizzling 500 degrees Fahrenheit and coated in soybean oil, which is widely considered to be a great cooking oil for meats thanks to its neutral flavor. Chefs slather the steaks in Texas Roadhouse's proprietary seasoning before searing each side on the flat top for 1 minute. After 2 minutes of searing, chefs transfer the steaks to the gas grills, where they cook to your requested doneness. And there's still one crucial step left after this: resting. Letting the meat rest before serving is essential because the steak will continue cooking even after being taken off the grill. The meat's juices also rise during cooking, meaning that they can spill out if you cut into the steak immediately. Resting lets the muscle fibers relax, evenly redistributing the juices. At Texas Roadhouse, chefs allow steaks to rest for about 2 minutes. A Texas Roadhouse steak eaten outside of its charming and sometimes corny home just wouldn't taste the same. Who doesn't love the all-out Americana seen in many of the chain's restaurants, complete with wood paneling, longhorn cattle skulls, and flashy neon jukeboxes? Interestingly, each location decorates the walls with local murals and memorabilia, giving each its own unique and homey feel. Texas Roadhouse's staff, popularly known as roadies, also go the extra mile to make guests feel at home. Apart from the hourly server line dances that help frame your meal as a hoedown spectacle, the waitstaff are often applauded for their Southern-style hospitality and excellent service. Or as Willie puts it,
If you're ready for a good night of fun and partying, go to the Texas Roadhouse. They know how to do it right.
Founder Kent Taylor even went so far as to originally source staff by visiting other restaurants and recruiting the most charming servers. The trick behind most of Texas Roadhouse's steaks is quickly searing and grilling the meat to create flavorful crusts and help lock in moisture. The chain does nearly the opposite with its prime rib, however, cooking it slow and low to achieve that delicious meaty tenderness. On a local news cooking segment, a Texas Roadhouse chef revealed the chain's proven prime rib process. His first tip was to not be scared of the meat, generously massaging the slab of prime rib with spices and herbs. He included soy sauce, honey, and garlic to create an irresistible sweet and salty combo that boasts extra moisture. He also explained that the meat needs to be marinated for at least 4 hours before cooking. After marinating, the chain's chefs slide the prime rib into a 300-degree oven and let it slow roast for around 4 hours. This gives the meat's tight collagen strands plenty of time to dissolve. The chefs check the prime rib with a thermometer as the meat roasts, removing it when the steak is nearly medium done, serving it crispy and brown around the edges, but juicy and pink throughout. The final step is to give the steak an estimated 15 minutes of rest time, allowing carryover cooking to achieve that perfect final texture. If you're not keen on forking and knifing your way through a 20-ounce steak, you can still savor Texas Roadhouse's succulent meat in a slightly different manner. If you've ever been to a branch of Texas Roadhouse, you're probably familiar with the basket of rolls and honey cinnamon butter on every table.
This is gonna be the cheesiest thing I've ever said, but I swear we make them with love.
Homemade and baked fresh every 5 minutes, these rolls are irresistible by themselves. But you may not have realized that you can also use them to build an irresistible steak slider. Since this isn't something you can order from the waiter, it's technically not a secret menu item, so consider it more of a Texas Roadhouse hack. Save a few buns and a bit of butter for when your steak arrives, or just order another basket. Then cut your steak into bite-sized pieces. Open the buns, spread some butter, and stuff the meat inside. The buns are almost as soft as cinnamon rolls, so paired with the juiciness and umami flavor from the steak, you'll have your hands on a sweet and savory masterpiece. This menu hack can be enjoyed with any steak on Texas Roadhouse's menu, but the filet medallions would be a great option because they're served in 3 small, tender fillets. An impassioned TikTok user who had dined at the restaurant shared that these sliders are also a great option if you're on a budget. Eaten this way, a single steak could feasibly feed a family of 8. Price is a factor that can really take you out of the moment during a dine-in meal. After all, who really enjoys cutting into a steak while simultaneously dreading how much it'll drain your bank account? Indeed, many would consider eating at a steakhouse to be a fine dining luxury, and with beef prices steadily increasing, this is often the case. The great thing about Texas Roadhouse, however, is that its steaks are often considered to be fine dining quality with a chain restaurant price tag. The company has famously kept its steaks cheaper than competitors, helping you forget the cost and focus on the flavor. So how can the restaurant keep prices so low? Well, as affordable steaks are foundational to the restaurant's ethos, Texas Roadhouse has mastered a few techniques to keep things cheap without ever having to sacrifice quality. Each location employs an in-house butcher who expertly cuts meat with minimal waste, meaning that the butchering process remains both eco-friendly and cheap. The chain also saves costs by rarely changing the menu, allowing the chefs to excel where they're best and saving money on advertising changes. A steadier menu also allows the chain to set up long-term contracts with its beef suppliers, helping to protect prices against economic fluctuations and uncertainty. If you've ever eaten at Texas Roadhouse, you'll no doubt have tasted their signature steak sauce. And if you just can't get enough of it, you might be wondering, just what do they put in it? The launch of Texas Roadhouse branded steak sauces in grocery stores means that both newcomers and longtime fans of the restaurant's signature sauce will be able to enjoy it as often as they like. Prior to the most recent release, Texas Roadhouse's steak sauce, packaged in a nondescript black bottle, could be found by enthusiasts both online and in restaurants. However, it wasn't as widely available as it is now. Both the original restaurant-style steak sauce and a new steak sauce are included in the retail lineup. But there may be some confusion as to which sauce is the one that Texas Roadhouse fans already know and love. The so-called Texas Roadhouse Classic Steak Sauce might seem like the obvious choice if you're looking for what you'd find in the restaurant, but it actually isn't. In fact, it's an entirely new sauce that's closer to a classic A1 steak sauce than anything else. The new Classic Steak Sauce isn't currently served in restaurants at all. It can only be found in grocery stores. Instead, fans of the restaurant's original steak sauce should look for the newly branded Roadhouse Gold Sauce. Connoisseurs will be able to immediately tell the difference between the two by taste. That said, unless you're already familiar with the special ingredients used in the original sauce, it could be hard to tell which one to choose simply by looking at the bottle. So, what sets the Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce apart from the competition? If you pick up a bottle of steak sauce, whether it's A1's original steak sauce, Peter Luger's steakhouse sauce, or basically any other of your favorite brands, you'll almost certainly find that tomatoes are the main ingredient. Sometimes it's tomato puree, crushed tomatoes, or some other variation of tomatoes. Either way, it's safe to assume that steak sauces are tomato-based. That's not the case with Texas Roadhouse's famous steak sauce, however. Whether it was by accident or to set it apart from the crowd, the Roadhouse Gold Sauce is made with apple butter instead of tomatoes.
An apple a day keeps the, No, never mind.
According to the ingredients list, the apple butter is made with the same ingredients you'd find in traditional apple butter, including brown sugar and spices. While the bottle doesn't say precisely what kinds of apples are used, it makes sense that the slow-roasted apples would impart similar sweet and acidic notes to the sauce as tomatoes often do, though with a slightly less savory quality. Otherwise, it includes similar variations of water, sugar, vinegar, and salt to those you'll find listed on other bottles of steak sauce. It's worth noting that tomatoes do make an appearance in the Roadhouse Gold Sauce recipe, however, as you'll find tomato paste further down the ingredients list. This is presumably added to the mix to incorporate some of that familiar steak sauce flavor, as well as to provide a little bit of savory depth to balance the sweetness of the more dominant apple butter. There's no one way to make a steak sauce, and many such sauces glean flavor profiles from one of its next closest kin, Worcestershire sauce. It's widely believed that Worcestershire sauce was invented around 1835, roughly a decade after the supposed invention of steak sauce, which was said to have been crafted by the private chef of King George IV by request of the monarch himself. Today, Worcestershire sauce is widely known and praised for its signature umami flavor, which is largely thanks to the use of anchovies in the recipe. But you won't always find it in a bottle of steak sauce. Take, for example, the Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce, which incorporates a similar yet different ingredient, soy sauce. The obvious benefit of using soy sauce instead of anchovies is that the steak sauce will be preferred by those who are allergic or averse to a stronger fish-based mixture. Thanks to its deep character and many flavor notes, it'll appeal to practically anyone who enjoys a more complex sauce. The slightly bitter, salty umami flavor of soy sauce doesn't just add complexity to the steak sauce either. It also helps to marry some of the stronger sweet and sour flavors in the Texas Roadhouse version for a smoother overall taste. Additionally, that touch of soy sauce in the Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce will be all the more welcome for those who enjoy the sort of soy-marinated beef dishes that are popular in many Asian food cultures. Some variation of orange is commonly found in many different sorts of steak sauces. This can take the form of orange juice concentrate, crushed orange puree, or even aromatic orange zest or orange peels. Given how well sweet acidic orange pairs with beef in many recipes, it's neither an unexpected nor unwelcome addition to a steak sauce. Again though, Texas Roadhouse's signature steak sauce switches things up by replacing the traditional orange juice with prune juice.
Shut up, Grandma! Drink your prune juice!
Don't dismiss this out of hand though. Much like orange juice, prune juice is sweet and tangy, although its tartness can be a little more biting than other fruits, more commonly found in steak sauces. When you consider the arrangement of ingredients in the Texas Roadhouse sauces, it seems probable that prune juice is used because it complements the sweeter apple butter. Since the sauce is already sweeter because of those apples, it makes sense to choose a juice with a more aggressive bittersweet bite, which will achieve the balance that a good steak sauce needs. Much like orange, prune is also a flavor that pairs incredibly well with tamarind, an ingredient commonly included in Indian cuisine, as well as steak sauces and Worcestershire sauce. Tamarind is a fruit that harnesses both sweet and tangy flavors, pairing well with many savory dishes thanks to its slightly earthy and caramel undertones. The Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce includes tamarind extract to round out the sauce's flavor profile. If you've ever taken a look at the ingredients list on a bottle of steak sauce, then you might not have noticed that it's likely to include raisins. Sorry, raisin haters, but there is a good reason for the use of this sometimes divisive dried fruit. And it's not just the Texas Roadhouse steak sauces that do this either. In fact, nearly every major steakhouse producer makes at least one product that includes raisins or raisin paste. That's because raisins add a boost of natural sweetness and a deeper, more subdued fruit flavor compared to other potential ingredients. Raisin paste can also help to thicken a sauce, meaning that you're less likely to have a surprise rush of juice splatter across your expensive steak or your shirt. It's also possible that raisins were first added to steak sauce for a more utilitarian purpose. Raisin paste, which is today commonly known to be rich in antioxidants, was once used to help prolong the shelf life of meats in the days before modern refrigeration was available. Having risen in popularity during the 19th century, its usefulness as a preservative was twofold, as it not only helped to slow down decay, but also potentially masked the flavor of meats that had already begun to turn. While refrigeration dramatically changed the way we store and preserve meats, steak sauces have generally remained the same over the last 200 years, raisins and all. While many popular steak sauces take their flavor cues from Worcestershire sauce, Texas Roadhouse's famous restaurant sauce reaches a little further into the world of barbecue for inspiration. Given that Texas Roadhouse is inspired by all things Texan, a little bit of barbecue seems like a fitting choice. Even then, perhaps the most unconventional part of this steak sauce is its smoky flavor, which isn't exactly subtle. This signature smokiness isn't necessarily the same sort of rich smoky flavor you'd get from smoking steaks over hickory or mesquite. Instead, it's the kind of smokiness you'd expect from grilling in the backyard over a coal-fired grill, with plenty of smoke and maybe a flare-up or two.
% more seating and 50% more ability to cook.
If you're cooking your steak indoors, this steak sauce adds a touch of the outdoors without actually requiring you to brave the elements. And while that smoky and tangy flavor might not appeal to everyone, those who do enjoy it will likely love this break from an ordinary steak sauce recipe. Everyone loves a steak every now and then, but it's probably fair to assume that most people don't eat them every single night.
Ron, would you like some salad?
Since I am not a rabbit, no, I do not.
It's certainly not likely that you'll be cooking steak dinners often enough to blow through an entire bottle of steak sauce in a timely manner. So what should you do with the leftovers? Well, fret not, as a good steak sauce can be used to season more than just steaks. And that goes for the Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce too. Reviewers have mentioned using it on everything from hamburgers and chicken to pork chops and sausages. as well as vegetables, noting how well the sauce pairs with all manner of different foods. But the trick to seasoning other foods with steak sauces isn't exactly a new one. A1 being labeled original sauce is actually a marketing move intended to make it more marketable as a versatile sauce, one meant to be used on a wide range of meats and vegetables.
A1 brings out all the deep down juicy goodness of every single bite of steak or even hamburger.
The Roadhouse Gold Sauce offers the same kind of adaptability, with a slightly different flavor profile than what you'd find with a classic steak sauce. And why not? It's nice to have options after all. Not only does Texas Roadhouse's Gold Sauce deviate from other more typical steak sauces in the flavor department, but it can actually be used as a marinade or supplement to other sauces. As a marinade, it plays several roles. First, the acids and salts in the sauce help to tenderize the outer surface of your proteins before cooking, which can be especially helpful for tougher cuts of steak. Additionally, the sauce helps to develop your steak's natural flavor and imparts additional complementary flavors to your meat while it marinates. Once you've cooked with this sauce, you'll be able to taste notes of apple butter, soy sauce, and smokiness that are more unified with the flavor of the meat. You'll certainly find these notes stronger than if you were only to use the sauce as a post-cooking dressing. If the smoky and tangy flavors of the Roadhouse Gold Sauce are especially appealing to you, you might consider adding it to other sauces to boost those flavors, such as mayonnaise, butter, or olive oil-based mixtures. A few drops of Roadhouse Gold Sauce mixed into a mushroom pan sauce right before serving might just be the thing your steak has been missing. The truth is that not everyone will fall in love with Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce. Even in Texas Roadhouse restaurants, diners typically have the option to use A1 sauce instead of the chain's own mix. But for those dining at home, Texas Roadhouse's new classic steak sauce more closely resembles what you'll find in a traditional bottle of steak sauce. This sauce is made with that familiar tomato and vinegar base and includes both raisin paste and tamarind for additional complexity. The Texas Roadhouse Classic Steak Sauce skips the umami notes of fish and soy sauce, keeping things simple with a more limited list of ingredients, especially compared to the gold version. For those who want the best of both worlds, the gold sauce can be used as a marinade on your favorite steaks, while the classic steak sauce can be deployed as a dressing once the steak has been cooked. Dry-aged or smoked meats don't necessarily require as much additional seasoning to amp up their flavors, but fresher meats such as chicken and pork can almost always use a boost. The Texas Roadhouse Gold Sauce manages to be both familiar and just different enough to excite steak sauce lovers everywhere, and can easily become one of the more versatile sauces in your grilling repertoire.
Famed Western-themed restaurant Texas Roadhouse first opened its doors to the public in 1993. Since its opening, the company has grown to more than 600 locations in 11 countries, where customers have been able to enjoy hand-cut steaks, fall-off-the-bone ribs, made-from-scratch sides, several varieties of margaritas, and more. But there's one thing that brings all of the customers back: the fresh-baked and highly irresistible rolls. Served with a delicious honey cinnamon butter, the rolls are soft, sweet, and always ready to eat as each customer makes their way to their seat. With an unlimited amount available, it's hard to resist scarfing down a whole basket or three before your meal arrives. Actually, they're so well loved, one Texas Roadhouse fan even got a tattoo of a basket of rolls and the sweet butter served alongside them. The restaurant serves up fresh rolls to every customer coming through and makes sure to have enough by baking them every 5 minutes.
This is our fresh baked bread. We bake it every 5 minutes.
Once baked, butter is melted over the buns and the resulting treat is sweet, doughy, and buttery, something fans of the franchise have loved. They're then served alongside the famous honey cinnamon butter as each table is seated, and as previously stated, your server is more than happy to bring you extra once your roll basket runs empty, which probably won't be long. As one Twitter user stated, "And don't let me be at Texas Roadhouse where they got the cinnamon butter to go with the rolls. I'm asking for a second basket before my meal even gets there." To make sure there is a focus on getting the rolls out fresh and delicious, each Texas Roadhouse restaurant has a baker in charge of making each yeast roll from scratch every day. Once they're finished baking, each roll is kept warm under heat lamps, so they're served just right. Obviously, not every Texas Roadhouse employee is going to love the job, but some certainly do. One Indeed user praised their job as a baker, stating, "I loved this job. I was able to bake bread and put it in baskets for servers to take to the customers. It was fast-paced during peak times, but was still really fun. I loved my coworkers. The hardest part was trying not to burn yourself." It's good to know the bakers have focus and excitement about making each and every roll in order to help make them as tasty as possible, and we thank them kindly for that. One deliciously sweet thing fans of the franchise are very grateful for is the honey cinnamon butter that helps to complete the rolls. Just like everything else on the menu at Texas Roadhouse, the honey cinnamon butter is homemade to perfection. one Reddit user revealed that the cinnamon butter's ingredients include honey and cinnamon, as well as a butter blend. In fact, Texas Roadhouse makes large amounts of the butter. Measurements the Reddit user remembers to be 40 pounds of butter, 64 ounces of honey, and 2 cups of cinnamon.
Don't forget our homemade honey cinnamon butter.
And did we mention the rolls are free for every table? Not only are they free, but as previously mentioned, they're unlimited, which makes them so much more addicting. Served alongside a bucket of peanuts, which is also free when you're first seated, you can enjoy as many rolls as you want with no cost. Who doesn't love that? With 5,000 guests served a day per restaurant, the rolls are served alongside 300,000 meals a day in total between all of the restaurants. So we know the bakers have got it down to a T when it comes to making these amazing rolls. The average Texas Roadhouse is 6,700 to 7,500 square feet and seats 291 guests. So we can only imagine how many rolls are served each hour as tables are seated. According to a post on the Willoughby, Ohio location's Facebook, they estimate 5 million rolls each week. All in all, the rolls, alongside the honey cinnamon butter at Texas Roadhouse, are a staple for the fans of the franchise, and the restaurant brand has succeeded in creating an item that so many look forward to with each visit.